Howdy. Each year, Texas Education Agency and the state of Texas want to be able to measure the effectiveness of schools. This year, the accountability system has changed, and I want to share a little bit about the results from AMS and how we will use those results moving forward. First of all, in the past years, there were 4 indices to measure school accountability. Now there are 3 domains. Student achievement, school progress, and closing the achievement gaps are the 3 domains. There's 2 parts to school progress, and the best of either one of these 2 measures is 70% of the overall score, while closing achievement gaps is 30%. First of all, student achievement domain. Basically, I just wanted to show that in middle school, 100% of the student achievement domain score comes from one day's test, or basically the series of tests over the course of a week or 2. School progress. There's 2 parts to school progress. The first one is student growth. Ideally, we would like every child to make 1 year of growth or more, and the accountability system rewards schools who are able to move students to expected growth or even accelerated growth. So it measures students from 1 year to the next. So let's take a particular student who received approaches grade level on one particular year. They received no growth score if a student makes regression. If they maintain, they get a certain level of points. But if they meet or make at least a year's growth or a little bit more, they get a certain level of points. But also if they exceed the expected amount of growth. Ideally, we would like to have students at the meets or master's level. The meets level means that they are on grade level and on track for the rigor of college and career ready. The second form of school progress is relative performance. And basically, they take the percentage of economically disadvantaged students and compare that against the STAR results. And there's a trend line. So for example, Atascocita Middle School has about 30% economically disadvantaged students. So I'm going to follow this up. On average, people with 30% economic disadvantage would fall in this area. The average school would be have a certain STAR score in this area. There are certain schools with 30% economic disadvantage that outperform their peers and can get a B or an A in relative performance, while there may be some schools that underperform compared to their peers with 30% economically disadvantaged and may get a D or an F, D and F being improvement required. So the closing achievement gaps, which is the 3rd domain, basically it measures the different groups. So for example, here are the different student groups that are measured. It measures the different subgroups, special education, the mobility, the students who are moving, ELL, and economically disadvantaged students. And what it does, it takes each one of those groups, and there is an achievement target score that it needs to achieve, and it measures the overall rating and closing achievement gap. Basically is the percentage of student groups that met that predetermined target. So specifically with middle schools in the closing achievement gaps domain, the score is broken down into 4 categories: academic achievement, growth, progress, ELLs, and student achievement domain score, the STAR component only. So this is the breakdown on how to achieve closing achievement gaps. So I'm going to share with you the scores and then move to a website. Basically, in the student achievement domain, AMS received an 81. Basically, in general, 81% of the students were passing 81% of those tests. The first part of school progress was relative progress, was part 1. We got a score of 72. Relative performance, a score of 59. And closing the achievement gaps was a 75. What they do is they take, in this overall rating score, it takes 70% of the best of whether it's student achievement or school progress. So in this case, 2A was better than 2B, and our domain 1 score was higher than our domain 2A score. So we multiply 70% times 81 to get this, and then 75 times 30% gives us this score. So in just a second, I'll talk about that 79 score. So moving to the website, I'm going to briefly show this to you. If you went to the website, you could type in Humble ISD and get the Humble ISD rating, but I'm going to go ahead and type in Atascocita Middle. previously mentioned overall score of 79 allowed us to meet standard. 81 was our student achievement score, basically the percentage of tests that were passed overall for the school. Our school progress, we scored a 72, and then 75 out of 100 for our closing achievement gaps. You could go into additional details on each one of these. It'll give you more information, but for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and move on. But yes, this is the information. Starting in 2019, they'll take these scores and they will reveal a through F score per school. If you want additional information about the accountability system in detail, you can go to the A through F resources on the TA website, and it has some basic versions and some more comprehensive versions of this explanation. Now, as I mentioned before, the accountability system is based solely on the series of tests at the end of the year. And I believe that that is just one bucket with which to measure the overall effectiveness of a school. So the last couple of years, I've provided different ways to report out to our parents the effectiveness of Atascocita Middle School. So if you went to the staff sites, and then you went to my site, you would see off to the left, campus improvement plans and data. And what I've done under data picture is I have presented not only our STAR scores, but also just A's, our course GPA, TELPAS. I've done some information on attendance and pre-AP courses. I've put information about discipline, our survey data. These are just samples of some of the parent and employee staff survey items. And then also I've put some demographic data in there. So this is just a greater overview of different measures of the school success. And you may not know this or not, but if it is bolded and underlined, that means it is the highest score over the last 4 years of measurement. If it is just bolded, in this case, this one, that means it was a higher score from the previous year. And if it is just regular font, that means it was just lower than the previous year. So it is opportunities for growth. If we went to the 2017-18 end of year summary, what you'll see here is just the successes and the things that are going great in the many different aspects of Atascocita Middle School. I do this around July of every year. So I encourage you to open up this document and just see all the different ways that we can look at the work that we are doing. So please take some time to read that. We recognize our parent groups, our fundraising efforts. So please go ahead and do that. Okay, going back to this, just what does this mean for AMS? I'm really excited about, we've done some good things over the last 2 years, but moving forward, we have some great things going on. So first of all, continuing for this year, 2018-19, just to focus on relationships, unit planning, that we want to make sure that the work that we're doing is aligned to the Texas TEA expectations. We want to provide coaching and feedback to students. That our goal is to be in the learning with kids, giving them specific feedback on the work that they're doing. We started this last year, and we there's great promise in this, that individual data sheets for individual students that will help us give us their strengths and weaknesses by standard, which allow us to personalize the tutoring sessions that we provide for them that directly impact their needs. Also, we've done in the past, for many, many years, reading strategies, Read 180, and math strategies. I'm super excited to say we are going to have the most number of learning support in reading and math that we've ever had this year. So new for 2018-19 to support our students, not just in student achievement, but the growth as well, is we now have an interventionist to track each individual student that is going through the RTI or intervention process, so that we can give specific support them on their specific needs. Also, for the first time ever, we have an academic coach who's going to work with 30 of our students and coaching them to improve their grades. Math 6, we're going to have strategic use of technology to meet their individual needs, and I'll go into that more specifically with those parents. Standards-based tutorials in our 4 subject areas to meet their individual targeted needs. So it's going to go to specific students who are invited. And then basically responding to our formative assessments. Thank you very much for watching the video.